Eileen Myles once said, "Words are nothing, believe me. Words are empty." It's the squawking of the animal, the wheezing, the desperate wind of life rattling through a body. It's sound. I believe in sound. It's the tiniest shaking when the colors are gone and the smells disperse. The shaking continues, the sound continues. Its effect is infinite. Hello and welcome to When Breath Meets Air. I'm your host for this afternoon, Tina Huang. Today, I am broadcasting from unceded Gadigal land, and I would like to acknowledge both the traditional owners and the First Nations storytellers of this land. This afternoon, we will hear 5 extraordinary writers perform their works out loud. And we will attempt to understand why, as Eileen Myles writes, we should believe in sound. Why we should believe in the tiniest shakings, in the smells dispersing, in the tingling moments between breath and between air. This event attempts to carve out a space, a concentrated architecture for rapture. We want bodies to hum, we want the air to spark, and most of all, we want you to feel something. So, for just an hour today, we invite you to put down whatever you're doing, whatever you're busy worrying about or thinking about, to turn off your phones and just sit back and get ready to be transported. To begin, I'd like to introduce the poet Eunice Andrada.
Thank you so much to Tina for hosting as well as for introducing each of us. My name is Eunice. I'd also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land where I'm speaking from, the Gadigal and Wongal people of the Eora Nation. I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people here. I have a few poems to read, and I'm so glad to be able to digitally gather my poems with everyone else's poems tonight. I'm a huge fan of everyone here, so thank you. This first poem is called Kotabatu. We did not see the perfect yolks spill from the river into the straits, leftovers from building their churches of limestone and egg whites. How the thousands of golden pupils must have stared back, or the oil that flooded the mangroves and changed the harvest forever. Hair trimmings from salon floors across the islands, swept up and sent in cargo loads, black soaking in the black. Perhaps it was a blessing not to see the image of dead women drifting face down, their hair undulating, soft pollutants. Still the fruit from Guimaras bloats with putrid nectar. If you held the land inside you, you would become the land, sick. Fruit bats fly to the forests of Antique. The weavers fly to Hong Kong. The last binukot dies. This is where we observe who comes to take and who leaves alive. From our monument of rain trapped in coralline, we watch the boats sever the water, release the cruelty it cannot hold. Shrivel. The birds flee. Mountains are whittled to baby teeth, calcium pulverized to the ground. Where the horizon submits to the water, creation proceeds. They spurt new islands like semen, crude appendages of sand and concrete and steel, dripping colonies made crystal hard in the heat, When they finish, doves land on the throbbing neon casinos, singing to each other how everything soused in salt will soon shrivel. Kundiman. And a senator orders every radio station broadcasting over the sea should air our music in Tagalog so invaders know whose waters they're on. As if our love songs alone could thwart a battalion. Our serenades would lull night guards to sleep before the noise of extraction numbed them once more. I want to be there with a love song, not to wield as a weapon, but as a comfort to the water. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see your faces for those of you who have your cameras on, and really nice to see all the familiar names in the room. This next poem is called The Yield, which is after a poem from Sonia Feldman. When I read there were 170 women seized from brothels in the Gardenia district, loaded into police wagons and crammed into the hull of a ship, I wonder if they held hands or prayed, if they cried when their lurching cage docked, and when next morning they were forced to till the dizzying fields. I wonder how they felt when told it was a waste for pleasure to bear no fruit, how they must instead keep the earth fertile with their hands. I wonder about the small protests, if they slashed open the mouths of green coconuts to drink in the juice in croaking afternoons. If, while wrenching cassava from the dirt, they spat jokes about the men who must be asking for them. If they sang ballads under their breath while they worked. If they made love to each other and did not wait for the yield. I'll end with this poem, which is a tongue-in-cheek TikTok poem. And if you linger on the WLW side of TikTok, you'll know the origins of this poem. But don't you hate it when women kill the herbs on the windowsill, devote their year's salary to takeout, put in the work and it isn't called women's work, depend on rechargeable limbs to stretch an eon, invent new vocabularies, aren't interrupted, coast on the high seas of their depression, are in each other's gaze, no longer products of myth, sleep safe on the late train, sleep the slumber of the wicked as empires succumb, take selfies from a million angles, each one the perfect angle, revolt, kill the cop, the colonizer, the capitalist living rent-free in their heads, demolish the altar built on their backs, without blame, walk away. Thanks, everyone.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Eunice. That was so moving. Next, we have a truly new and exciting poetic voice. Please welcome Jazz Money.
Hello, Yuridumarang. It's so great to be here and to be with just the most brilliant lineup of people. I'm so excited to be listening to you all, and I'm very honoured to be taking part in this. I'm on beautiful Gadigal land today, and I just want to extend my incredible gratitude to the custodians of this place who have cared for it since always, and extend that acknowledgement to all the custodians of all the beautiful countries that we're gathered on in this digital event. So I've got a couple of poems to read, and some I've never read before out loud. So this is a test audience in a way, but I hope it works. All right, the first one I'm going to read is called Still the Night Parrot Sings. It was written in response to Dean Cross's exhibition, Icarus, My Son, which is just about to open at Carriageworks. If anyone is able to go, you should check it out because I think it'll be very good. Okay. Still the Night Parrot Sings. Watch the boy fall sky to dust and through. He doesn't land on that promised confetti, but instead feels the crunch, something that slips through dreams and cannot be held in morning light, landing hard on a cold, hard thing. It sounds like a truck tearing along the highway, seen by the country it crosses unseeing. It looks like a cricket bat turned tired, yelling out in Boxing Day backyards of almost and could have. Years gone, almost, and he could have been a... 'Cause is it true that you can move away and slip into a new skin, polish up the nasal of your accent and find ways to never tell the full story of the thing you will learn the name for in the city? What is it that they say? It's only once there is a distance between yourself and poverty that you might see it was there all along. Maybe it lives in that back shed. Maybe it lives under those creaking floors. And if you wait long enough in that city, you might even be able to recall housing insecurity and a black eye as some sort of ridgy-dig bullshit badge of genuine ascendance. I heard him whisper, "Did you see him before the fall? 2 fists raised and back gleaming. A proper champion. For us eyes to gaze upon. Maybe that uncle built him up wrong ways inside this labyrinth, but here's the thing. I am so sick of you force feeding those myths of elsewhere upon this soil, where we have story plenty, and it doesn't end like this. You wrote him to fall, but I can see him rising. It sounds like a whistle in dawn light, the call of soft returning. It's dark out with only the headlights to reveal feather and confetti falling. But yes, cuz, still the night parrot sings. It looks like a man returning, adjusting the flaking ghost gum print hanging proud above the laundry sink. And if you look at him just right in the city-like glow of elsewhere, I can see that story true. They said falling, but I say rising. I say floating. Say returning. So the next one is called The Balance of Shadow. Spread fingers wide, hold your hand to the light. Dip these fingertips below the horizon. Become the place where flesh gives to soil. Dissolve the balance of shadow. Feel your place within this wholeness. Watch light and see between. Feel light edge into edges and feel that golden warmth expanding. Streaking glow and color. Bend upon the break. Expand infinitely within this deep known place. A container placed upon this soil with strangeness and wrongness writ, and yet country is within, is around, is all this. Scratch the paint, tear the carpet, destroy all that was built unwelcome, and reveal the marks of here. From above, I see us in river light flung, splashing, a wider berth. Every loop to join another, and the weave goes deep and deeper. And as you dance, the lines will blur. And as you sing, the land will stir. And as you move within all this, you continue returning, an ever strong net of us and here and home. Us, here, home. Thank you. This next piece is in the latest issue of Curated, which I think just came out today, perhaps. So it's a bit of a concrete poem. So if you want to follow along sometime, you can go look at it. And thanks also to the beautiful editors for that latest Curated edition. It's really, really deadly. So yeah, also go check it out because it's full of great folk and great writing. If that ghost is still here come morning, brew a hot cup, go out walking with the memory of those you couldn't heal. Every night comes with new intention, but I don't know how to read the wind, and this salt water has me thirsty for a current that knows my return. Sister, I've been trying to listen to this story, but every word comes out backwards and every shadow meets in long dark, where self goes disappearing. Go careful. There's rules for whistling night and stronger ones that can't be taught if you didn't grow small under the eyes of moonlit knowings. There's places I didn't go in time. This city, thudded over site sacred, curls with ghost. Watch how certain places bubble with horror or yearning. I'm looking at these maps, gazing from below. I'm walking with those ghosts upon grid over drain. Sister, we're marveling at shadows writ upon those dreams by ghosts who walk here still. All right, this is going to be my final one, and I did a foolish thing and didn't quite bookmark it in the book, but I think I know relatively where to look and should be able to find it in a moment. Got it. All right. So my final piece is called The Young Men Are Singing, and I wanted to read it because it's about connecting through COVID with our voices. And I'm hoping desperately that this is going to be one of the final gatherings that we do that has to be online. And that soon we'll be, listening to each other in person again. And so this is my hopefully closing of this COVID chapter. The young men are singing along the bridges of the city, wearing face masks. They're walking into the highways, eyes to the sky, 6 lanes stopping to hear their songs. The young men and the birds will rise up in their chorus to gather below the moon, translucent, dissolving in the milky glow. The steel scaffolds and iron harnesses of the grid will soften, dissolving into song. Wherever notes swell or those gentle fingers touch. And slowly, the city will rise into the air, into the mist. A mirage of yellow cranes, unfinished skyscrapers, mismatched wires dangling below the exposed concrete belly. The birds will stay below, 2-legged, to pick at the naked insects left behind at the edges of the flattened grass. Thank you. Just again, thank you so much for having me and for this just delightful lineup. I couldn't be more thrilled to be taking part.
Thank you so much, Jazz. What a wonderful selection of readings. And I really look forward to reading your new poem in Kodai. So now we have someone truly exciting. I'd like to welcome the incomparable Gomeroi poet, essayist, and legal academic, Alison Whittaker.
Yama, everybody, and thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here, and even though it can't be in the flesh, I draw such great comfort from the community that we share through breath, in Jazz's beautiful poem, and the community that we share in spite of being kept separated for now. Before I go any further, actually, I just want to acknowledge Gadigal and Mongol country, which is where I'm coming to you from today. And I want to acknowledge Gadigal and Mongol elders and ancestors who continue to hold sovereignty over this space and therefore govern how we relate to one another on this space. I'm a Gomeroi woman and I'm also a guest here on Gadigal and Mongol lands. It's an honor to be here. What I might do that is maybe distinct from some of the works that you've heard so far today is I plan on sharing with you a short essay and a long poem. If it all goes to plan, hopefully it'll fit in my assigned 10 minutes. The essay I'm going to read to you is called Hum, and it was published in the Griffith Review in kind of the throes of lockdown in August as things began to escalate. And it already seems kind of like a relic of its time, but it seems strange to not kind of mark what seems to be so far the end of this period without acknowledging the hurt that it did to many of us. Hum. It's the dull hum of a helicopter overhead that wakes me up. A few pocketed families scatter from their games, soccer, volleyball, running really fast together in a straight line, being timed. It's hard to find a way to justify falling asleep in the park, books splayed on my abdomen, as exercise, even within 10 kilometers of my apartment. But the sun was just so warm on my thighs. It straddled heavy on me. The book was boring. No one was around. I felt safe. Flushed under the sound of that helicopter, I think a bit about my bad heart and whether it can be useful when I needed it to be, instead of the liability it's been so far in a pandemic. But who'd want to go to a hospital right now? I settle for pretending to do crunches. We get followed by cops even when the activity exemption is obvious. I learn early on from what you could call euphemistically comparable experiences, those small indicators that shouldn't matter, but do because race and class do. Exercise exemptions, wear good leggings and a matching top, go to the nice walking tracks near the Drummoyne McMansions where police stay in their cars and they just do laps. When you're there, walk with your chest up and out, a little smile. Shopping exemptions, always buy a loaf of bread and UHT milk and at least one canned good. Never cough. Don't linger. Get carded anyway. I'm in Sydney's inner west, an enclave of relative wealth. I have light skin that affords me a pass from and offers me complicity in most public and carceral racism. I have plenty of bread now. I'm doing okay. I am not hungry, criminalized, unsupported, or surveilled. I don't have an army at my door. The vending machines at Central and Redfern stations are slow, but with creaseless cash and quick fingers, you can get a bottle of sparkling water from them while the train's pulled up for passengers. Sparkling water, I'm told, gets irritants like OC spray out of your eyes a little quicker. If you or anyone around you is scared of going to the hospital because you can't breathe and because you matter and because you've chanted as much for the last 8 hours. She said her name was, but I took to calling her. She was maybe early 40s, 2 kids. We met through the open window of my car with its long and loud first gear. I blushed a little when the engine strained towards her testing table. Working in the city meant dancing this little odd line with a few times each month. They're working you hard today. Yeah, beats the hospital. Could you check your address for me? Yeah, it's in. Yeah. And your address is .edu.au? You work in education this whole time? Yeah, at a uni. But I don't teach, so just don't tick that. What do you do at uni if you don't teach? Well, it's ticked. Okay, head back. Almost done. Don't cry. She saw my exaggerated wet blinks. She offered me a quiet, good girl. And every time I saw her for a test, which was until Laverty took the contract and the former e-waste site privatized, my hips fluttered, driving up to her testing table. Every piece of lockdown writing is a chore. There's no friction in the action. We're condemned to the dull hum a crisis takes on when it's gone on too long. I remember few notable events. There's no purchase in memory anymore. There's nowhere to hang the weight of a story. Every poem in lockdown, at least mine, succumbs to its own exaggerations. Even here, my grotty interiority. I'm impotent, wordless again. Too many op-eds have scared me off simile or metaphor. This is not like this. This is hardly like that. It's embarrassing, the public urge to distinguish your suffering from everybody else's, to try to find in it a unique and named place in the whole, mostly inside and mostly alone. But becoming right and righteous is not the same as coming home. The quiet I'm cultivating, not because I'm above this public urge, just because I'm right now too stupid to find words for it, has its own accidental wisdom. A lockdown is not, despite what you may have been told, like a prison. There are several young Black men on the roof of Park Lee, a place that's like a prison because it is one. Prisons should crumble, but especially in pandemics that predate on breath and air and space. They already effectively use those tools to incubate death, disease, and suffering. No, I haven't digressed. In the footage online, I watched two competing plumes of debris rise into a sunset. One is black smoke. The other is a spiraling grey-white mist. Tear gas. The young people get into formation and hold their fists in the golden hour for the drones coming by. Their silhouettes are, for a second, gilded. They've arranged their shirts on the roof at their feet to spell BLM, like others did at Long Bay Prison about a year ago now. That bit doesn't make the nightly news, but mobs see it elsewhere. Briefly, these men step into their power, and we bask in the responsibility that confers upon us. Lots have been said and written about how familiar this dull hum of crisis is to mob. I don't want to repeat it. I only want to follow my family's little precedent, a path of hedonistic spite that we push as wide as a narrowing catastrophe allows. I know this containment isn't that girl's home. I know this containment isn't Tipperina. In spite of everything, my life's path is relatively wide, and the hedonism permitted me is nice. I get to watch in awe as a black cockatoo comes close to somewhere it should be, but can't, dangling like a fruit over the profane. A D-grade McDonald's, falling apart apartments, WestConnex tunnels. The leggings are done. I'm buying leotards. My 5-year sobriety is dead. I get to watch the novel coronavirus, see it creep up towards Gomeroi country, and for the first time I allow myself to catastrophize. It is, after all, where I promised my weakened heart I'd die, not a place for wholesale death to go. Again. And I'll close with a long poem to remedy the short essay. I've also fallen into Jazz's trap of not bookmarking it beforehand. But like you did, Jazz, the intuition got me there eventually. Before I read this, I also want to just take a note of respect to any mob who are with us today, who are either on the panel as Jazz or who are with us in the audience. There's never a good week in the colony, but I want to share with you very briefly this acknowledgement of how painful this last week especially has been for so many mob, and to hope that this, what I'm about to read, offers some small comfort to you, as it does sometimes to me. Murray Spacetime. From me. Don't take from me. What I've been learning slowly, I'm seeing time stretch out from me. Don't take it. I'm seeing slow stretch time before me. Don't stretch away from me just yet. Take time. You're learning. Stretching my churning, clear my burly knees. Just don't take what I've been slow learning from me. Take it from the end, from the stretch me. I'm learning, but not from me, and not from tall buildings. They knit tie me up at the knees, and not short squat ones made from stones near the sea. So shatter them all. Reknit my knees, but don't take just them, and not just from me. Take it from them who knew just what MC and E could do before you know. And I think I know who. I know who the is for, who shape it so made, who don't take it away, the stretch, not to seed, just to bounce me back, drag me by my knees. Don't shatter that, please. Build nothing and see. See time, see I'm learning slow, so show. Stow your yearn and knit together with me. Crack my knees, milk me to the trees. The slower I get, the less I lead. The more I stupid slowly learn, the less I know I need to know. Concede to know to learn. Stretch me elastic, bounce, back me, and flow. I am less scared, more ready for scarred knees, more snorted at, more steady. The more I am slow, the more I am slowly stretching back. This timeless future, gone lean on my back, and the further I carry it, the less I dream, the more shattered I am by the growing sea, the more knitted I am to the horror tree, the more ready, the more made, the more free. Don't take that from me. I'm from it, who from slow knit made me. Slow knit making something just from nothing, just. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alison, for the essay and the poem. That was just wonderful. We now have our final speaker. Please welcome, I'm introducing people. Please welcome the poet, the writer, and convener, Sara Saleh.
Thank you, Tina. Such hard acts to follow. Not sure how I'm gonna keep a straight face, because I honestly have goosebumps, Alison, from your reading, from everyone's readings, really. So just gonna need a second. Before I begin, I would like to also echo sentiments and start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that I'm on, Gadigal land, land of the Eora Nations. I'd like to pay my utmost respects to elders past and present, and extend that to any First Nations community members in the room. This is stolen land where storytelling and poetry sharing has taken place for millennia, and it is, was, and always will be Aboriginal land. I also want to take a quick second to thank Tina and Martin and everyone who put together this, and to Writing New South Wales for putting this event together, for organizing it. It's such an honor to be here, as others have mentioned, with this dream lineup, poets and humans that I love and draw such strength and craft from. So really excited to be here. This first poem that I'm reading, I hope makes you hum and spark as Tina instructed. It's from the anthology, I don't know if you can see it, Boundless, which was recently released. And I think Alison and Jazz also have works in it. So if you get a chance to check it out, please do. And the only reason I'm shamelessly plugging it as well, aside from it being excellent poetry, is because all the profits from the book go towards a scholarship that has been specifically set up for a woman, an Afghan woman who is of refugee background and recently moved to so-called Australia from Nauru, I believe. So if you get a chance, check out Boundless and our works. This poem is dedicated to the queens and queers of the dance floor, my Arab aunties. It's called The Not So Secret Life of Arab Girls. Our Raqs is Sharqi, after Patricia Smith. They can't stop us Arab girls, spring coil curls, sentimental lines of kohel, hums, hollers, and trills, Allah, Allah, dropping our Raqs Sharqi. Stepping out in scarves and tassels, strong backs, we strut and swing on streets, at weddings, in living rooms, chest to chest, pot belly to pot belly. The record skips, belt up them wide hips, henna night is vibin'. Aweeha! Glory be to our pure bride, her teta ululates, li. Drums thump, sweaty, stretch-marked thighs rub, shame at our feet. Tonight, I am not difficult to love, watch these sides shake and shimmy. Gears whirring, grinding, blazing, ya banat, glide up that galabiya, dip like Tahiyya, Samya, and Hind, swerve those curves on that God-given body. They can't stop us Arab girls dancing till Fajr interrupts, swatting white belly dancers gyrating unceremoniously. Mothers and daughters and sisters and beloveds, slide on over and slide it good. Give thanks to the divine as we revive the sacred Raqs Sharqi. I hope that got you guys vibing a little, because the next two poems aren't as fun, sadly. Feiruz. The last one of us has left home. Feiruz sings, "Oh wind, if you please, take me home." What does it mean to lose a person, to lose a country? Whenever I write about Mama and Baba, I use ellipses. I am not fond of endings, and we are a people of Ken, Zaman, and Ken, Yamakan. Upon the rumble of the bus that was carrying us from the village of Hamliya to the village of Tanurin, I remembered you, and I remembered your eyes. Friday lunch, we draped bony fish and spiced potatoes on the table, fighting over who is to blame for this mess. America, Amo says, or we brought it on ourselves, or some other or. We stay seated for hours with our oversized plates and our oversized grief. Feiruz. The people have asked me about you, my darling. They've written letters and the wind took them. It's not easy for me to sing, my darling. We both come from a wartime where there's only one hospital and many shrines to watch over our dead, their bodies inside out, which is to say, we only know how to love inside out. So many times I sent word when you were an island, unsure if it reached you, my darling, and what if we are not meant to survive everything? Feiruz sings and we are reminded every love letter is also an elegy. Until when, God, our land is being reborn, the man on the TV says, burn the mosques, burn the textbooks, burn our tender. The city turns our curses to prayers, our disciples to the wretched. My voice keep flying, whirlwind inside the conscience of a people. Tell them what's happening so that maybe their conscience wakes up. Sing to them, sing, we are a free people. We are a free people. My last poem is called Border Control Meditations. To the cities that changed me. These are questions two young soldiers asked me at the King Hussein border crossing checkpoint. Were you born on a Thursday in Cleopatra Hospital? Did you come out silently as daybreak smudged the night sky? And why was your father absent? What is the name of your father and his father and his father? Do your neighbors Muhammad and Fatuma water the orphaned houseplant whenever you are away? Are you aware your parents first arrived in Australia with their life savings wrapped in brown paper? Their only English, the lyrics to We Are the Champions. Did your mother bring two dresses, red polka dot and turquoise taffeta in her peeling 60s suitcase? Did you correct her, thanks God? Did she put up a fight when you said you were leaving, when he left? And how was your first Ramadan alone? Did you miss the walnut ma'mool and Allahu Akbar's tossed at you Eid mornings? Have you told anyone about the Enid Blyton books you stole from Stanmore Library because your mother worked 3 jobs? If you flatten your gutturals, is it still Arabic? Why did your childhood best friend run away? What man siphoned her dry? Why does your grief stick to everything? Did inhaling an onion help with the tear gas they threw during the protests of '03? What remedies did you inherit from your ancestors? What skeletons? Who taught to roll weta ainab like that? Does 2 a.m. still grab you by the throat? Amongst the gitanes and sewage and Roman ruins, can Beirut forgive its people? How many times have you phoned your mother since? Does your grandmother always boil her water twice? And why are you still shocked at how things don't work there? What other city turns its war bunkers into clubs, its prayers into curses? And why do the wretched always sell roses on Bliss Street? And how do you revive the dead? Why did they take your brother? Could you make out his face amongst the thousands flickering in the waters of the Mediterranean? Did he return months after the funeral to ask you, what wrongs did I commit? What village do you carry on your lips, balance on your breath? Have you been to Jerusalem during olive harvest season? Did you pick and press before the settlers gathered like acid in your chest and poisoned the ancient trees? Have you tired yet of the may Allah have mercies, and have they tired of you? Were you afraid of the men with guns those nights the power cut? Did you splutter your amens and sweat out your tasabih? Do you remember the countries you've lost? Did their crooked rivers still cling to you? Did you hear the aunties, rusted arms, coarse hair on chins call you lonely? Call you nobody's mama anymore? Did you tell your mama you named him Omar al-Farouk after the revered warrior? Why did it end with your great love who changes everything? Did he make your wide hips tremble with jazz and dirbekke? Did he linger long enough on each letter of Yalel, Ya'ain in the evening news headlines? Did your hurts trail behind him like tangled fishing lines, too much for the life he lived? And does weight like that settle or lift? And what of the days you feel the earth graying? And when will you stop writing about borders and bloodshed and war and death and home and home and home? Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was amazing. I loved the first poem about dancing, but I was equally moved by all three of them. So that brings us to the end of the session. I began today's event by saying that today's session is about sound, that the session is meant to be a concentrated architecture and rapture. And I just want to conclude by saying this small thing. When I first conceptualized this event, I did so because I felt that writing festivals have become increasingly focused on critique. And that's important, and it was hard won, but I really wanted to carve out a space for celebration, and specifically celebration of the power of the written and spoken word. But as I have listened to the 5 speakers today, between celebration and between critique, between breath and between air, I've realized there is probably a false dichotomy between celebration and critique. That celebration can be a form of critique, insofar as, if racism has a flattening effect on people of color and Indigenous people and renders us one-dimensional beings who are only ever subject to melancholia or victimhood, maybe it's a deeply radical act to get together on a Saturday arvo in the middle of October and just go off. To tell stories of melancholia and anger and impatience, and to critique, but also pleasure and rapture and celebration. And ultimately, through all of the speakers, to leave the briefest of moments, a full life instead of a bare life. To brim with pain, but also to brim with joy. And I want to quote Glennon Doyle here, who says that we know that we can learn from pain, but maybe we can learn from joy too. But whatever you have felt today, whatever emotion you have felt, I hope that you have felt fullness. And now you can go back gently into the world. Thank you.